Hello, I'd like to welcome you to the Wednesday, June 17th Planning Commission hearing. Heather, if you'll call the roll.
Granger.
Here.
Mr. Boswell.
Here.
Mr. Klee.
Here.
Miss Macbeth.
Here.
Mr. Edwards.
Here.
Mr. Schaller.
Justin.
Here. You're muted.
Mr. Charlie.
Here.
So thank you for everyone for being here. This is obviously a new world for us, so we'll try to move through the agenda as speedily and without being muted while we're talking as possible. This is the first time that the Planning Commission has met at a hearing since February. So our first item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of February 19th for the regular meeting, for the comp plan session that followed immediately after our very brief February 19th meeting, and then our comp plan meeting on February 26th. Are there any additions, corrections to the minutes of those meetings? Not seeing anyone who wants to offer anything. Is there a motion to approve them as submitted?
So
I
moved.
moved. Second.
Heather?
Mr. Granger.
Aye.
Mr. Boswell.
Aye.
Mr. Klee.
Aye.
Miss Macbeth.
Aye.
Mr. Edwards.
Aye.
Mr. Schaller.
Aye.
Mr. Charlie.
Aye.
So we have two items on our consent agenda. A paired item dealing with Virginia Greene's retirement community at 4301 Battery Boulevard. Is there any desire to pull these off the consent agenda, or is there a motion to approve them as they are shown?
I move to approve the PCR 20-005 and PCR 20-11 as presented.
I second that motion.
Heather?
Mr. Granger.
Aye.
Mr. Boswell.
Aye.
Mr. Klee.
Aye.
Miss Macbeth.
Aye.
Mr. Edwards.
Aye.
Mr. Schaller.
Aye.
Mr. Charlie.
Aye.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to our public hearings, and we have effectively, I believe, two public hearings. The first one is a 5-part item, PCR 20-003, 4, 5, 6, and 7, all requests of the Williamsburg Area Transit Authority. Carolyn, will you be presenting these?
That'll be Aaron will do the presentation on this.
Aaron, please.
These are a series of requests on behalf of the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation by the Williamsburg Area Transit Authority. So I'll kind of go through each case one by one to bring the board up to speed. The case 003 is a request by WATA on behalf of the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation to subdivide 37 acres into 2 lots for WATA to purchase the existing bus facility and continue its operation. WATA proposes to improve the existing facilities by adding additional administrative space and 2 bus bays. WATA is currently under contract to purchase the lot known as Lot 1-A, conditioned upon receiving necessary approvals to continue its operation at this location. For PCR case 20-004, this is a request to change the comprehensive plan designation for Lot 1-A from Colonial Williamsburg Museum support to public semi-public. WATA is currently under contract to purchase this parcel. The proposed change in ownership would require an amendment to the comprehensive plan to reflect the intended land use and new ownership. The Colonial Williamsburg Foundation will retain its ownership of Lot 1B, and the comprehensive plan designation will remain Colonial Williamsburg Museum support. PCR 20-005 is WATA's request to add public transportation and maintenance facility with a special use permit to the limited industrial I zoning district. PCR 20-006 is a request to rezone Lot 1A from museum support to limited industrial. If WATA purchases this parcel, the proposed change in ownership requires rezoning to reflect an ownership change. Lot 1B will remain museum support and will be owned by Colonial Williamsburg Foundation. PCR 20-007 is a request on the behalf of WATA on behalf of Colonial Williamsburg Foundation for his special use permit to operate and expand a public transportation and maintenance facility at 7239 Pocahontas Trail. Comprehensive plan designates this property currently as Colonial Williamsburg support. The proposed designation for the lot newly created 13-acre lot at 7239 Pocahontas Trail would be public and semi-public. These uses are generally institutional buildings and lands. These uses include municipal centers, courthouse, public and private schools, hospitals, religious uses, and cemeteries. This parcel is currently zoned museum support. The statement for museum support reads, "This district is established to allow uses that are related to and support the function of Colonial Williamsburg Historic Area." The applicant is proposing to rezone the newly created parcel located at 7239 Pocahontas Trail to limited industrial. The statement of intent for limited industrial I reads, "This district is established to encourage light intensity industrial uses in low density well landscape settings, which will be compatible with all types of adjoining uses and will afford maximum protection to surrounding properties." This property is located outside of the Architectural Review District and no review is required. The Site Plan Review Committee reviewed this request at their meeting on February 19th and recommended approval. This request by Williamsburg Area Transit Authority on behalf of the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation to subdivide 37 acres into 2 lots for WATA to purchase the existing bus facility and continue its operation. WATA proposes to improve the existing facilities by adding additional administrative space and 2 additional bus bays. They are currently under contract to purchase Lot 1A, conditioned upon receiving these approvals. The current comprehensive plan designation Colonial Williamsburg support is for uses associated with the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation. The subdivision and subsequent sale of the property to WATA requires this designation to be changed to public semi-public. This designation will allow WATA, a transportation organization, to operate the transit center. The current zoning designation, museum support, is for uses that support the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation. The subdivision and subsequent sale of the property to WATA requires a change in the designation to limited industrial. A text amendment to add public transportation and maintenance facility will allow for this use in the limited industrial district as a special use permit. Lastly, the requested special use permit allows WATA to operate the existing facility in compliance with the zoning ordinance. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend to City Council approval of PCR 20-003 through PCR 20-007 as presented. I believe that Zach Trogdon is on the meeting. If you have any questions, he's the representative for WATA.
Sure. Before we move on to that, does anyone have any questions for Aaron?
I'd just like to say one thing, Chair Macbeth, which is as an employee of the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, I have a conflict of interest in this application and I need to recuse myself from discussion and voting.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
mute myself.
John, looked like you had a question or a comment before Jeff started talking.
I didn't mean to look that way.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought I saw your hand go up. Okay. Okay. So if no one has any questions of Aaron, then I will open the public hearing, and Zach is the representative. You get to speak first.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes,
Yes.
perfect.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Zach Trogdon, and I'm the Executive Director with WATA, and I want to thank you all for the consideration of the request, and thank you to staff for all the work on our behalf. This project has been in development for several years now, and it's good to see it taking some steps to get underway. With all the various twists and turns we have to take, it's somewhat of a unique project. We're proud of the fact that it is looking to use space that's already developed, and we won't be disturbing any additional impervious surface. So we think that's a tremendous benefit, and why we've really made a commitment to seeing this project through on both sides. And the project is intended to still allow the current partners at the facility, WATA and Colonial Williamsburg, to continue our unique partnership that allows us to work together, to support the economic and the recreational and social activities through transportation. So if there's any other questions, happy to answer them. And thanks again for the consideration of this request.
Does anyone have any questions of Zach?
Zach, I remember at the site plan committee meeting, which seems like 100 years ago now, there was a mention about there was some grants or some kind of funding that the WATA is going to be able to get if this change goes through. Can we just put that on you mentioned that so it's on the record here in this meeting?
Correct. Yeah, that's a great question. I did mean to mention that. Yeah, we're bringing quite a bit of funding to this project, and a lot of it doesn't even have a local match necessarily. So it's around an $11 million project once all said and done. And I don't have the figures in front of me, but yes, we are bringing a significant amount of other funding to leverage for this project. So really, we're just using some of the local sources to have some project management and some of the engineering and design work done, but the construction will actually be funded with state and federal sources. So we are bringing a lot of money to the area and look forward to doing that.
And I think there's an ADA compliance. You're going to be some retrofitting or some redesign to bring some ADA compliance there too. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, we will do whatever we have to bring. There's a couple of things, for instance, an elevator for the second floor that we would have to do things to bring that into compliance, and any other little things like that. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments? Well, this to me looks like a complete package. So I would be happy, as long as it's okay with Chris, for us to entertain this as one package of 03 through 07, unless people wish to pull out any individual pieces.
That's fine. Have you closed the public hearing?
No, sorry. Thank you for that, Chris. There's no public here. So Mark, is there anyone who wants to speak to the commission on this?
Yes, ma'am. There is one caller on the line that I'm unsure as to who they are. Their phone number, last four, is 8535.
Okay,
Caller,
thank you.
If you wish to speak to the planning commission, please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I was here as WATA's counsel. I have nothing to add to the statement made by Mr. Trogdon. My name is Brent Hayden. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who's called in?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And I will close the public hearing. And at this point, if there's any further discussion amongst members of the planning commission, or entertain a motion.
I'll move that we recommend approval of PCR 20-003, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Second,
I'll second that.
without further discussion, Heather, if you call the roll.
Mr. Granger,
Aye.
Mr. Boswell,
Aye.
Mr. Klee,
I abstain.
Ms. Macbeth,
Aye.
Mr. Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Schaller,
Aye.
Mr. Tarley.
Aye.
Well, thank you. I hope that this delay hasn't caused you too much grief, but I'm grateful for you putting together such a great package and us being able to at least come forward at this point. Thank you.
Thanks all of you. Thank you.
So our next public hearing is PCR 20-009, a request from Williamsburg James City County Schools to amend their special use permit granted for James Blair Middle School for 2 additional storage sheds.
This is a request on behalf of the Williamsburg James City County Public Schools to amend the special use permit granted for James Blair Middle School on January 14th, 2016 by adding 2 additional 12 by 16 foot bike sheds behind the school at 101 Long Hill Road. The sheds will be used to store bikes for instructional purposes at the school. This property is designated as public, semi-public in the comprehensive plan, and it includes government facilities, churches, public and private schools, fraternal organizations, nursing homes, and cemeteries. The lands to the north and east are designated as low-density, single-family detached residential, and the corridor commercial land use, with lands to the south and west designated as corridor commercial economic development, William and Mary, and parks and recreation land. The property is zoned single-family dwelling district RS2, and the property to the north and east is zoned RS2 and B2, with land to the south and west zoned B2, ED2, William and Mary, and RS2. The RS2 district allows the special use permit public or private elementary, middle, and high schools. This property is outside of the architectural review district, and therefore no review is required. The site plan committee reviewed this request via email on March 16th and recommended approval. The applicant is proposing adding two 12-foot by 16-foot storage sheds on the northwest side of the school site. The bike program has been expanded beyond the capacity of the existing shed. The proposed sheds will provide a convenient location for bicycles to be stored while ensuring they're adequately secured when not being used. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to City Council approval of the request to amend the previously approved special use permit by adding two 12-foot by 16-foot bike sheds at the James Blair Middle School as shown on their conceptual site plan. Jim Falzone with the school system is here if you all have any questions.
So does anyone have any questions of Erin? So didn't we add a bike shed like in the past year or so? Is that the singular bike shed that's on the site plan? And these are two additional that are off on the side? Is
correct.
I was trying to...
We approved a bike shed in the fall of 2018.
Okay.
And the program, I guess, was successful enough that they've kind of outgrown that space and need additional storage.
And so are these like similar to identical to the one that's more in the middle of the site plan, since I'm just seeing the line drawings of this?
That's my understanding, but I think Jim could probably better speak to that.
Okay, so I'll back off on this. Anyone else have any questions for Erin at this point? Okay, not seeing any, then I will open the public hearing and I will let Jim Falzone, as the representative of the applicant, be the first to speak. You're muted.
About now, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, good. Thank you again for the consideration. To answer your question, it is our intention to have the new shed match the existing shed that's there in color and finishes, everything. They're identical. I think we actually only intend to install one at this time, but because of the legislative process, we went ahead and requested for two.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I just had a small question, and I'd just like to hear a little bit more about their location. The first one is on the school side. The one that we approved previously is on the school side of the driveway and parking lot. Mm-hmm. And the other two are, it looks like they're up next to the multi-use trail, but they're on the other side of the parking lot driveway. I don't imagine there are serious safety concerns with that, but nonetheless, was there is that the safest location for them, given that there'll be a lot of children using them and crossing that driveway? And I'm happy to hear that it is, but I'd just like to hear you talk a little bit more about how that location was chosen, if you would.
Sure. The intention is to use them during the school day, and we had chosen those locations because they were of proximity to the gymnasium and some of the athletic programs that go on back there. So it is our intention to have them located where they are, with the added benefit that they're also located at kind of the back side of the school and farthest away from the street. And that was really just as simple as our logic was.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions of the applicant?
Sure, I had a quick follow-up question to Jeff, which is which side of the sheds will the doors be on? Which is to say, will the doors open towards the bike path or not?
sort of, I didn't get all that transmission. It sounds like you're asking which side of the shed would the doors be on.
Correct.
And if that's the case, we would intend to have the double doors on the long side of the shed. And to me, practically, I think it makes the most sense to have the doors facing the bike or the multi-use path, because that's where the bikes would likely be ridden. But I'm open to suggestions.
No. Does anyone have a suggestion on that? Justin, did you have a concern about whether they face the trail or whether they face what might be a lawn space or something?
Sure. Yeah, I guess my concern would just be I don't know what the traffic is like on that particular bike path, so I would want someone that does bike more frequently and knows the particulars of that part of the path better to decide or help decide. You know, do we have a preference at all for those doors? I guess my hesitancy would be if there is non-school related bike traffic coming, needing to dismount or go around groups of kids that are grabbing bikes out of the shed could be a hazard to folks that are going a little bit faster on bikes and need to brake or something like that. So perhaps I'm overthinking, you know, the exact location of the door, but I was just curious.
Well, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I suppose maybe it makes more sense. I'll change my mind. I think that maybe it makes the most sense to put the doors facing the school themselves, because at least we have cameras in the schools that can see those doors for security reasons. And also the ramps that would access those doors and go down the ground level wouldn't have to be as high, just given the topography of that site. So I would recommend facing the doors toward the school.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Falzone? Okay, we are still at a public hearing. Mark, is there anyone on your side that wants to speak?
There is no caller on the line waiting to speak for this one.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before I close the public hearing? You're not seeing anyone who wishes to speak. So the public hearing is now closed. Is there any discussion amongst the members of the Planning Commission, or is there a motion?
I move that we recommend approval of PCR 20-009 as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, Heather, if you'd call the roll, please.
Mr. Granger,
Aye.
Mr. Boswell,
Aye.
Mr. Klee,
Aye.
Ms. Macbeth,
Aye.
Mr. Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Schaller,
Aye.
Mr. Tarley.
Aye.
So that ends our two public hearings. We now go to open forum. I'm not seeing any callers. Is that the correct interpretation of that?
That is correct.
Okay. So there's no one for open forum, so we'll move on our agenda. We have already covered the site plans under consent agenda. I don't have any unfinished or new business. Does anyone have anything else to share?
Unknown caller.
I'm not seeing.
Other than that,
Thank you for sharing, whoever that was. We have our regular monthly reports, and we have 3 months of monthly reports, so you can have your spare time to work on those things. We do have a public hearing scheduled for July 15th, which is in front of us in our agenda, 3 different public hearings. And I guess we will recognize whether or not we move to another stage of openness or not in the next month or so, whether we meet in person or whether we maintain this virtual commitment. The question I did have, though, about our future meetings, Carolyn, if you could share what you know, if you have anything to share, you might not, is where we're going to be progressing on the comprehensive plan. I mean, we were meeting quite industrially.
Yeah, I hope that we will start back with our regular meetings next month.
Okay.
So we would have a regular planning commission meeting at the middle of the month, and at the end of the month, I hope we have a comp plan meeting and start back on that schedule with, like we had before, with a regular meeting and a comp plan meeting on the last Wednesday of the month.
On the 4th Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I get, so obviously it's not on any of the items in front of us today with regard to planning for next month, but I guess if people could
Right.
add that to their calendars so that if we are able to move forward, it's on your calendars and we can do so with a quorum.
And I'll send out a email to everyone on that also.
And Carolyn, just to confirm, when you say regular meeting, are you talking about in-person meetings or you're just speaking about
Yes.
the regular
Thinking
hearing?
next month, I think all indications are right now that we will probably have an in-person meeting next month. City council
Great.
meetings look to go that way. So if city council meetings go that way, then planning commission meetings will go that way. And if we have in-person meetings, then I'm comfortable with having the comp plan meeting on the fourth Wednesday of the month, because then it's easier for the public to participate in those meetings. With the virtual meetings, it's kind of difficult to get public comment and so forth. It's not an emergency. So we've been holding off on the comp plan meetings.
Do you anticipate needing to have restrictions on how many people are in the audience at that point, or
Well,
do you have
I
any
think
thoughts about that?
phase 3 with the governor, before then the limits go up. Right now, currently it's 50 people.
Yeah.
That's why we're sort of holding off and see what the governor's going to do. We suspect we will probably hear something from him tomorrow, whether we go into phase 3 anytime soon. And then I think that will dictate what we do with the planning commission meetings. That's why I didn't want to put it on the agenda and then have to notify people we're not going to do it again.
Yeah. Thank you.
This include ARB as well, you think?
Yes, it will include all public meetings again.
Right. And despite how
we hear something by you.
I was going to say, despite how entertaining this Brady Bunch format is, for those people who are actually watching, there are definitely many meetings where there's more than 50 people in attendance, if you can count all of us and people who come to participate or at least just watch what's going on with their city governance. So we do need to be able to have a larger number of people who are able to gather to be able to have informed meetings. Okay, well, that was just a personal privilege question there. If there's anything else anyone needs to bring for the body of the group? Well, not seeing any, then I will close the Planning Commission hearing, the Planning Commission meeting for June 17th, 2020. And I hope to see everyone in person next month.
With
Bye-bye.
haircuts.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you.